out there in Beerville, welcome to another episode of Beer Reactions. I'm Jono.
And I'm Paul. And this week we're going to be looking at two more brewery beers, and we're hoping to find our beer of the year. And of course, if you can see our scoreboard behind us, you'll see that Frontal Brewery's Deer Hunter, that Russian Imperial Stout that was absolutely superb, is still sitting there at the top spot with 19 points. So this week's beers, Jono, they've got some beating.
They have. So shall we just unveil the ale?
Let's unveil the ale. Okay, one, two, three, go! So what have you got?
I have one of the big players.
Oh, right.
I've got one of the big
I can see
players.
exactly what you've got here.
This is a bottle of Shepherd Neame Spitfire.
That is a classic English beer, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Classic English beer. Well, that's very interesting because I have with me Buxton Brewery's Kingslayer. So this is almost like Old World versus New World.
Indeed.
Who will come out top?
Let's wait and find out, shall we?
Let's find out. So who's going first today, John?
I think it's me, isn't it, this week?
I think it is.
It is. Right, let's talk about this one. This is Spitfire from Shepherd Neame Brewery. They are in Faversham in Kent.
Okay.
This beer was first brewed in 1990 to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Britain.
Ah, interesting.
Spitfire.
Okay.
Shepherd Neame is probably the oldest brewery in Britain.
Get away.
Yeah. Records show that it's been brewing on that same site since 1698, but in actual fact, I think it could go right back to 1147.
Get away.
When monks first started brewing beer very near to that site.
So it's not a Trappist beer?
It's not a Trappist beer, it's a classic English beer, brewed with malt, but they also put crystal malt in there as well, which gives it that coppery colour.
Okay.
But they also use Challenger, Target, East Kent Goldings and First Gold hops in there.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of classic English hops in there as well.
It's a classic looking beer. It's quite it's got a pale beer, as we can see.
It is.
Well, for a brown beer.
For a brown beer,
it's quite a pale brown beer. Indeed. And interestingly, it's in a glass bottle as well.
It is in a glass bottle, not a brown bottle.
What do you think of that?
Well, the general guidance is that you're supposed to keep beer in a brown bottle to keep the UV out.
Right. I know.
But I would say that people at Shepherd Neame do know what they're doing. They've been brewing beer an awful long time.
Well, this is really interesting because the kind of direction of travel just now is for craft beers. It's for a lot of American hops. So the kind of bitters of old are kind of going out of fashion, and Spitfire probably kind of represents those beers of old. So it'll be really interesting. I think as we've been doing this show, that my palate has started to change a little bit. So I'll be really interested to taste that tonight and see how it scores.
Yeah, funnily enough, I've sort of regressed a little bit.
Okay.
I've been drinking a lot of modern beers of late,
a
lot with American hops and things like that, and this series has made me drift back to the traditional style.
Well, you are a Yorkshire lad after all.
I am indeed, and I do like those traditional malty beers with the fruity.
It'd be interesting to hear from you guys at home as well. Given the rise of craft beers, where you stand, is there still room in your fridge for older style beers? Get in touch and let us know.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we
get pouring?
Get pouring.
Let's get pouring.
Let's get pouring. Okay. Oh, did you hear that? That was good. That was good.
I'm going to be very careful with this top because I collect tops. I don't want to damage it. I ain't got one like that.
Not much in the way of CO2 escaping there.
No, there's no little genius CO2 there. Is there?
No magic gases.
So, let's see how it goes.
Go for it. So with that pour, I think we should call this the beer reactions pour.
I think we should.
And if you haven't seen our how to pour the perfect beer video, check it out on YouTube. That is very clear, very copper in colour, isn't it? Beautiful.
It's a nice looking beer, that, I think. And I can actually smell that from here. And I'm quite a way away from it.
Pick that up while Jono's pouring. I'm going to put it back down there just in case there's any left in that bottle. I wouldn't want to miss out.
You don't want to miss your fair share of the beer. That is very copper in colour, isn't it? Who's got the most? Was it? Aye, perfect. I think they're perfect. Perfect levels.
Okay.
There you go.
So let's have a little sniff of this one then.
Let's get the aroma.
Quite.
That's quite spicy actually. There's malt and spice in there.
I'm not getting any sort of spicy notes. I'm picking up quite a kind of floral note from it. A little bit kind of grassy, which is something I say quite a lot actually about these sorts of beers. No, I'm not getting much of an aroma there at all.
Now the label says Spitfire Amber Ale, it layers a bitter orange marmalade flavour on top of a sweet biscuit and caramel malt.
Yeah, I would expect that kind of a biscuity flavour from this.
Honestly, there is a bit of an orangey smell there.
Right, I'm going to see if I can get that.
It's very slight.
Maybe very, very slight.
I'm going in.
Right, let's get in.
That is very biscuity.
I'm going to go back in for a second taste.
Just going to show that to the viewers there so they can see what that looks like in the glass. Biscuity, malty. I do think there's a spiciness there.
There is a slight spiciness there. It is very malty. There's a little bit of bitterness there. Not too bitter. Certainly not as bitter as a sort of modern IPAs are for sure.
No.
It's very. I mean, it's definitely a brown beer, but it's quite a light brown beer. And you know,
it's not heavy, is it? It's not got that heaviness that a lot of brown beers have.
And that reflects the colour of the beer as well. What's the ABV, Jono, if you don't mind me asking?
4.5%.
Oh, right, okay.
It's 4.5% in the bottle, but if you bought it on cask,
yep,
or if you got it in a can, it'd be 4.2.
Oh, right, okay.
And you notice that quite a lot about beers bought in the bottle, usually a little bit stronger than.
I guess that's a secondary fermentation, is it?
But in a bottle like this, will that
No,
have secondary fermentation?
no, you're right, it won't, will it?
In a bottle conditioned beer, yeah, I can fully get that. But in it's the same as if you buy Hobgoblin. That's it's not as strong in the can or the keg as it is
in the bottle.
In the bottle.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. So for me, that actually it tastes like quite a weak beer. So 4.5% actually surprises me a little bit.
I'm quite enjoying that. I think it's quite refreshing beer.
It's not.
It's got a refreshing taste to it. There's definitely a sort of. I mean, I don't know if it's orange. There's some citrusy there, but it's a very mild citrus. But I am getting some spice. It's like an allspice flavour, a little bit coriander right at the back.
Yeah.
After the malt, after the sweet malt.
I think I would agree with that, Jono. There is something like that, like coriander or something there.
But I mean, it's got 4 different hop varieties in it, and they're all classic English hop types: Target, Challenger, East Kent Goldings, and First Gold.
I'm interested, John. Is this like a go-to beer for you? You know, one of those beers that you grab off the shelf and.
I've very rarely bought this one.
Oh, right, okay, interesting.
Yeah. I just saw it. I knew that Shepherd Neame was an old brewery, so I just thought, give it a go.
Okay.
Sort of like a bit of a wild card.
Yeah.
You know, the idea somewhere, I think at the back of my mind when I picked this one was, for you people at home, choosing beer can be quite a daunting thing if you've not done it before. If you're just used to drinking regular beer or lager, and you've not gone into that world of beer before, this is available just about anywhere in Britain. Most supermarkets stock it. It's a well-respected beer. It's a well-respected brewery. So if you wanted to buy this and join in and have a go with us, then you know,
absolutely.
It's a perfect one to have a go at.
And it's worth saying as well that Beer Reactions is not just about fancy new shiny beers. You know, sometimes, particularly in terms of a craft beer, people can be, I hate to say, a little bit snobby, but I think there is a little bit of that creeping in. But for me, Good beer is good beer.
It is.
I don't care whether it's a craft beer or whether it's made by two guys in a shed or whether it's made in a massive brewery. If it's a good beer, then I'm really happy to drink it.
Same here. I like that. I'm enjoying that.
It's a good beer, Jono. So, what about scores on the doors then?
It's got a bit of fruitiness. It's nice and sweet. There's a little bit of spice in it at the background. It'd be a lovely beer to have with a meal, I think, as well. That one. It's not too heavy. It's not. I don't feel like it's too strong, so it's not too heady. It's got a nice malty, fruity aroma with it. 7.
7. Whoa, good score. For me, I'm going to go for a 4. I'm afraid for this one, and the reason I say that is it's just not exciting my taste buds enough.
Okay.
It's quite a plain beer. And for that, that's the only reason really why I'm scoring it so lowly.
Okay.
I mean, it's a nice beer, it's a refreshing beer, but for me, it wouldn't be my choice to drink.
Okay, so quite a diversity in scoring there.
Indeed. So what does that give us then, Jono?
7 and 4.
7 and 4.
11.
Okay, 11.
I had to work that in my fingers.
Well done, Shepherd Neame Brewery. And I think, Jono will certainly be drinking that again.
I will.
So let us know at home what you think about sort of the old world beers versus the new world beers. We're really interested to hear your views on that. So thanks for that, Jono. That was a great beer. Sláinte.
So that was Shepherd Neame's Spitfire, which has got 11, which puts it on a par with Born in the Borders Liquid Velvet. So,
Great.
Tell me about your beer then,
Shall I
Paul?
tell you a bit about mine? So
Please
we
do.
had the old world beer first, and now we've got the new world beer. This is a beer from Buxton Brewery. Now they did their first mash on the 1st of January 2009. I wouldn't want to be doing a mash on New Year's Day. That's
pretty dedicated.
pretty dedicated. Yeah. So they started in the garage with a 40 litre setup.
Right, okay.
A couple of guys in Buxton. And then they cuckoo brewed at another microbrewery for a year. Okay, so they used somebody else's brewery for a year while they were practicing before going full time within a full 800 litre setup a year later. Okay. And they now have a 3,500 litre setup and they brew 3 times a week. So they're making a significant quantity of beer now, and they also have a tap house in Buxton too. So this beer, I'll bring it a little bit closer to the camera. Sorry. It's called Kingslayer. It is a double IPA. It's called, and at first glance, it looks like it might be inspired by Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, who was, of course, the Kingslayer. But it does have a quote on the can which says, "We must have bloody noses and cracked crowns." And when I googled that, it's actually from Shakespeare's King Henry IV. Okay. So I suspect it might actually be from a Shakespeare play rather than
interesting.
Game of Thrones. So that's quite interesting. So it's a double IPA. It's 8%.
Wow. So another
ABV.
one with a kick punch.
It should have a bit of a punch to it. Now, do you know what a double IPA is, Jono?
Does it mean it's double hopped?
I think it does. That's right. Typically double IPAs have a higher alcohol content, somewhere between 7 and 9%, and they are generally very hoppy. Double dry hopped, or possibly
secondary.
Possibly
and
3 times.
Cask, maybe.
Possibly hopped 3 times.
Wow.
So this, I read a little bit about this, and it might be a New England style IPA. Now, New England IPAs are very, very popular, certainly in America, starting to get popular here. They're quite a hazy beer, and that can be caused from the dry hopping, or it can be caused by the oats and wheat which are in the beer too. Which kind of brings me to the ingredients. I know that there's barley in here, there's oats, and there's wheat. I don't really know what hops are in here because it doesn't say so in the can. Okay. So in terms of expectation, this is going to be quite a strong beer, I think. It's going to be a hazy beer, and it's going to be quite hoppy.
I'm expecting it to be sort of orange in hue.
It may well be.
I don't know why, but most of any IPAs I've seen have been very similar to that.
Interesting.
So be interesting to see.
Shall we get pouring?
Let's get pouring.
Let's get pouring. See if we can hear that magic sound. You ready?
Yep.
disappointing. So,
well, I was wrong about the colour. It's actually very straw coloured. I'm quite surprised because most of the New England IPAs that I've seen have had a very orangey colour. Sort of light coppery orangey. Actually, it is quite orangey once you get behind the light there.
it actually is a bit orangey, yes.
Yeah,
I would say maybe tangerine rather than orange. Just going to make sure that I distribute this beer evenly. I wouldn't want anybody to miss out here. Oh gosh, it might have a bit of a kind of orangey or grapefruity aroma to it actually.
It's got a smell. I can smell that. It's very hoppy aroma from here. They always do that, cans. That last
last
bit always goes outside.
So should just hold this a little bit closer to the camera. Okay, you can see that that's very, very cloudy. Okay, let's have a sniff, shall we? Oh wow, that's got a pretty amazing aroma to it.
Yeah, pineapple, mango. It's got pineapple, mango. There's citrus there as well. Lime, grapefruit.
That is very, very tropical.
It almost smells like a tropical fruit drink.
It does, like a cocktail.
Yeah.
Like a pina colada.
It's definitely got that pineapple.
That smells.
It's like I'm seeing
amazing.
palm trees and white sand beaches and.
I can hear Barry Manilow and Copacabana. That smells fantastic.
See, I'm even Bob Marley and the Wailers.
You've always been much cooler than me, Jono. That's fabulous. I'm gonna have to get in there and give that a taste.
Taste it, but there's definitely a sweet maltiness there as well underneath the fruit. I'm going in.
Oh man, it tastes strong.
It tastes strong.
You can taste the alcohol.
Yeah, you can. It's got a bittersweet punch at the beginning. You can get that hoppy punch is right at the beginning, then you get the sweetness, and then you're left with the lingering bitterness.
That is
at the back of the tongue.
That is very, very smooth indeed.
It's not as effervescent as I thought it was going to be. It's actually quite smooth. I expected it to be good. Given how it broke, I expected there to be quite a lot of fizz in there. But the smell is extraordinary. It really is like one of those tropical grapefruit, pineapple, mango fruit drinks that you open.
You can actually taste mango in there.
It's umbongo.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's a little bit syrupy as well. Maybe that's the high alcohol content. Maybe that gives it that syrupiness. But it's absolutely. I mean, it's beautiful.
I do like that. This is the diversity that you get with beer. You think about the beer we've just had, the Spitfire.
That's right.
Classic brown beer, English beer. This is beer. But the two drinks are like chalk and cheese.
Chalk and cheese. I mean, to my mind, this is a very exciting beer to taste. I think it's fantastic.
See, I like that, but for me, I'm finding it too sweet.
Is it too exciting for you?
It's not too exciting. I do like an exciting beer. Don't forget, I gave Frontal 10 out of 10, whereas you only give it 9.
That's true. That's very true.
But it's rather sweet for me. I'm finding it a little bit cloying. It needs some more bitterness, I think, to edge that.
Do you know what? That is a really interesting point, because I think for an IPA, and particularly for a double IPA, this is not as bitter as you might have expected it to be. There is a bitterness there, but it's not as bitter as you might have expected, and it does have a sweetness to it. It almost has a milkiness to it. It reminds me a little bit of Polly's Brew Company's lactose IPA, but there's no lactose in this.
You sure?
Yeah, according to the can. But you know, I mean, I do really like that, and I think I could probably drink a couple of pints of that quite easily. But I think you need to be quite careful because at 8%, you're going to get leathered pretty quickly on this.
You will. You've got to take that easy.
Yeah, you've got to take that easy.
I'm finding that quite heady.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm not saying I dislike it. Don't get me wrong, but it's there's a big sweetness there that I don't think there's enough bitterness
to counter that.
I would have another one.
Which is interesting because Polly's Brew Company was a really bitter beer, if you remember. So it did have that bitterness to.
I would prefer a little. Maybe it's the hop content in it, or the type of hop. We don't know what hops are in it. I'm maybe Chinook or something like that, perhaps.
I think there are some particular, hops that are used in New England IPAs. Not sure about that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, anything else you want to say about that, John, or should we go straight to the scores?
I think we should go straight to the scores.
Okay, scores. So I think you need to have another taste before you score it. Hmm.
5 out of 10.
Oh, that's harsh. That is harsh. Viewers at home, I think you need to drop us a message if you think that's harsh. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10.
Can you just qualify that? The only reason I'm giving it 5 is it's that sweetness for me. It's too sweet. I would prefer something to balance out that sweetness of it. And while there's a hot bitterness there, it's not quite enough to counter that sweetness to me. But that's because I prefer that old worldy sort of malty beers.
I get that. I do get that.
I just prefer a little bit more bitterness to counter that sweetness. The sweetness lingers too long and the bitterness dissipates too soon.
Okay. So 8 and 5 gives us 13 out of 20. So great beer, I think, and I would urge you guys at home, if you can get a hold of this can, give it a go. And in fact, if you can get a hold of Kingslayer and Spitfire, give them a taste side by side and get in touch with us and let us know which one you prefer.
Please do.
So thanks for that, Jono. Sláinte.
Sláinte.